teacher said that 2 plus 2 times 2 makes 8. This satellite has traveled far, Venus, Mercury, and planet Mars. She's seen this life you wish you had. Flying over our heads. This beauty brings you fortune in life, and I am a man less satisfied. This satellite has been around. My mother Mary, she won't let me down. She's seen this life you wish you had.
So I'm here with Colm from KARMS, and this is going to be the second interview that KARMS and Colm have done on my podcast. So you're the very first person to be introduced back onto the podcast for the interview.
It's an absolute privilege.
So the last time we spoke, you were in the midst of recording your album, and I believe you were set to release it on June the 29th. I believe, was it February we spoke last time?
I think it was, yeah.
Around about February time. So I know that it was an exciting time for you, and now the album is out. Everyone can hear it. Satellite, which is a fantastic record. It's on my notes for album of the year contenders for 2018. So well done for getting onto that. Firstly,
Nice one.
yeah, it's
You received that brown envelope then?
yes, I did. Yeah. Yeah, so it's now on the shortlist, and I've got to go through it by listening to every single album. So it'd be great to have a listen to the album in full once again. So, firstly, how are you doing?
Yeah, great. I mean, we've released an album that we spent about 2 years working on, so it's a relief to get it out there.
You couldn't be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously with the album out now, you've got people coming in with loads of their thoughts and opinions on it, and also just the fact that the album is released. You've also done quite a few gigs at the moment as well. You've done a couple of big time supports for specific artists as well. Father Son you did this month as well.
Yeah, they came over to Dublin for their first headline show, and I think because we kind of met them before a couple of years ago, they gave us a shout to play with them here, and I mean, it's a shame we didn't get out on the full tour, but it was a start.
Yeah, definitely, and also with the fact that it's Father Son, and you seem to do big support acts. You've only done large support acts. You don't. It's go big or go home for you guys.
I think people are afraid of us. I mean, how could you follow a band like us, you know?
Very true, yeah. Plus, that's a good thing, though, sometimes. I know that some artists don't like to get bands that, might be better than that artist because it might be seen that the headline act isn't as good as the support acts. I've never had that personally, but I prefer it when an artist just goes for bands that they really like, regardless of if they think they're better than their band, or the audience come to see you, so there shouldn't be any issues with that.
Yeah.
And then one of them, Frank Turner, he just gets people who he enjoys because he just wants the show to just be amazing from start to finish, and they have been. And they've some of the bands they've supported have probably been very near to being on par with him, and that's quite a feat. But yeah, he doesn't care. He's just like, yeah, I'll just get these people on.
Yeah, we'd be the same. Like when we go to book our own shows, like we always say, let's put on a good night of music. So we don't really care about, how many fans a band has or whereabouts they are in their career. If they're good and we like them and they're free, we'll ask them.
Yeah, that's how it should be as well.
Yeah.
So, with the recording process, let's talk a little bit about that before we dive into the actual release of the episode. So, you said you spent 2 years on this album, and what was the first song that you had to put together for this album?
So we recorded River and Away Away with a producer called Tony Dugan back in, I think it was 2016, and we were kind of just trialing his approach to recording, which was, he recommended, because we're a live band, that we record live, everything together and then overdub the vocals and any other layering that you want to do.
Okay.
So they were the first two songs that, immediately, just based off the quality of production, we said, yeah, they have to go on the album and we have to keep working with Tony on the rest of it. Now that's not to say that they were the first two songs written, because, when we actually came to, pre-production, we kind of took any song that we felt had real quality to it, put it back together, recorded it in our own studio, and then kind of picked an ABC list of songs that we wanted to then go in and record.
And then obviously the EP you've put out in 2017.
Yeah.
That was consisting of the tracks that were also featured in the album as well. What was the decision behind putting the tracks from that EP in this debut album then?
I think I think it's just where the industry is. You can release and re-release music all you want because people consume it in the same manner. It's not as if you're kind of selling physical CDs and people are getting the same music on a CD and then they feel kind of hard done by for paying music. You're just essentially re-releasing it. So you're just kind of, if you had an ad on an adverts platform, you're just bumping it again.
Yeah.
I mean, the quality of those tracks are unbelievable, and they would, the album wouldn't be complete without those songs on it.
Very true. Yeah, I find that the album flows very nicely with those songs in there as well, and there actually is a great connection that from start to finish. And I feel like if you didn't have those songs on there, then it might not have worked as well with the debut album.
Yeah, exactly. And the EP was kind of just an introduction, and you're reaching a certain portion of your fan base at that time. And then, when you go to release the album, you've obviously brought more people along. They might, those people that are only discovering you now may not even ever hear the EP, even though it's readily available, but they may go straight to the album. And at that point, you want them to have the full picture.
Yeah. And then obviously it's debut album, so there must have been some pressures as well with releasing this and sorry, putting some music onto releasing the music out to the world, but also putting songs in there from the EP as well. Did you think that you were going to get the response that you wanted with the album coming out?
It's so hard to predict anything, because these days people, they don't really have time to consume music in the same way as they would before. So the only thing that we were nervous about was whether or not people were actually going to listen to it. But the main thing for us was just to put something out there that we were proud of. Okay. And that we'd worked really hard on. So for us, like, it's all personal goals as opposed to trying to, reach a certain level or a certain market of people. Like, so long as we're doing it for ourselves, that's all really that mattered to us. And like everyone, with your first album, you've got forever to record it. You've got forever to prepare for your first album, but it's then following it up and keeping the momentum going is where the pressure comes in.
Yes, that's very true. Actually, So, have you started working on a second album already? Then,
I don't think an album, as much as I'd love to do just album after album after album, I think what we've decided to do, is we're going to go into the studio now in November, our own studio, and record and release something for early in the new year.
Great.
And I think we might have some stuff before the new year as well.
Oh, okay, interesting. That should be great to hear the new tracks. But then, do you not feel that you can see other people releasing album year after year? Is that not a pressure for you then to try and keep up with these people? So there's a few bands that I know that even though they have released a very successful album maybe 2 months ago, they're already looking at demoing the third and recording it early next year already. Yeah.
See, for me, like, the industry's fucked, like, and bands that get caught up in the whole whirlwind of keeping up and, living to the pressure of having to deliver new content almost instantly is the reason why bands fail.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no money in the industry anymore, and people that listen to music because of Spotify can listen to you on a Monday and then move on to someone completely different on a Tuesday. So if you put that amount of pressure on yourself, I mean, you're going to drain the life out of the kind of creative and exciting element that you have. Like, so the kind of approach that we take to it is, let's not get caught up in the business side of things and just do what we do for the reasons that we started doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is just really to play music and have fun. And if people listen to it and like it and come along for kind of that experience, then great. I mean, if they don't, then so long as we're still having fun, that's really all that matters to us.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then there must be some sort of element of that you want to get the album to as many people as possible, and talk to myself on like podcasts and magazines and sort of get it out there as much as possible as well.
Yeah, like, you people like yourself who, really push and promote music from, unsigned bands and even bands just that you like. They're probably the best platforms. Bands, you've got Facebook where you can't even get anyone to see what you're talking about as a band unless you give them money to do it. So platforms like the podcasts, like blogs, reviewers, and just general word of mouth is the most beneficial thing to a band, like creating the connections like the one that we've got with yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, firstly. I mean, I think in this modern age, I think there's a lot of speculation with like the Enemy and all these players, especially the Enemy. I'm just going to call them out because they're terrible. It's just... I just want to grab people's attention for views and then just sort of spit them out of the other side.
Yeah.
Not really follow it up with anything else. I was going to put Rolling Stone in there, but then they do a lot. They actually go to... I know that when they do big interviews, they actually go and spend time with the artist for like 2.5, 3 days, and they do their own podcasts and things like that. So I can't really put them in that bracket because they actually do a lot. But yeah, it's the publications that are trying to just drip feed as much information as possible with the sort of least amount back, as it were. The most amount back, but the least amount of content put out there. And then you've got, the blogs and the podcasts that, are just trying to put as much out there as possible with, little views as back as possible.
So every industry is struggling with sort of the age of social media. In these media platforms, they have to deliver content as often as possible, and I know a lot of it's clickbait, and a lot of it, when you actually read into the detail, you're like, well, what's the actual story there? I mean, all they're trying to do is keep up and not drown in a sea of information.
Yeah.
So I can get why they do it, but at the same time, if you could, like, particularly with music, if you could find the good ones that really advocate and get behind the artist, those guys are going to strive better than, where people will eventually get fed up of the saturated market of content.
Yeah. Plus, I think social media also has an effect on the actual music people are producing as well. I think there's a lot of bands who have changed their sound because of just the way that social media has gone. Hip hop and that sort of genre has really taken off, so people are sort of putting a spin on all of that, and it's just sounded so crap.
I know, and like people, like with the hip hop thing and anything, where we go through trends in music. I mean, that's all set by the industry. That's all dictated by radio, which probably is further dictated by the labels. Or, I mean, there's definitely some sort of brain out there that's kind of forcing certain trends on people. But at the end of the day, any human will just enjoy whatever music is good and that they enjoy listening to. So that whole idea of October, November on the radio is just flooded with hip hop, and none of the rock bands can get an opportunity, I think is just it's just an awful time to be trying to get air in this industry right now. Yeah. So I think the best thing to do is just do what you can with what you have, and don't ever because we have, and me in particular, because I'm so focused on I just want people to listen to it. So I get so proud of the songs that we produce, and I get so bogged down on how can I get the more people to listen to our stuff that I forget about why I'm playing music in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's highly dictated by where the industry is, and that whole thing about trying to be current, I suppose, even though there's not necessarily a need for it.
I can imagine that it's very difficult for you to keep going in a sense, because you might know that you'll create something that you're so proud of and so humbled by, and just you want everyone to listen to it, but it might only be 15-20 people that actually do buy the EP or listen to the album. I don't know how many people bought your album so far, but that's sort of how I see my podcast as well, is that, you know, it is a little bit of a struggle to keep going, but I do it because I just want to keep as many, you know, I just want to make as many artists happy by showcasing them on the podcast and just trying to get as many new artists discovered as possible, really.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's a struggle when you try and keep up and try and, you know, be the biggest band in the world, when if you just consider why you're doing it, and just be creative for the sake of being creative, as opposed to forcing creativity to keep up with demand or try and promote yourself to the next level. I think it's the only way to do it. I mean, because we've struggled. Like, we've taken the decision that, like, the best thing for us to do is to remain creative. And when you start getting bogged down in the business side of things, you start forgetting about how to, you know, why you're playing music together in the first place.
Yeah, but then that will come with time, I guess, is that you might find a record label, and you might find someone who will push your music more than previously as well, and that might be where you might start to get a little bit of a snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly. Like, keep doing what you're doing for the love of it, and if someone comes along and wants to take you up to that next level, or it may happen organically, but so long as, you know, you have to be real and people can see through where you are just fishing for likes, as opposed to just putting out decent content and people latching onto that.
Because right now, I mean, obviously with this, I think there is a little bit of resurgence bubbling in the very depths of that sort of volcano that is the rock music one. Is that it seems as though it is starting to come back again. I can feel a bit of a resurgence.
Yeah, definitely.
There's, you know, punk is coming back, definitely. That's already, you know, Idols' album was number 4 in the charts when it was the week that it was released, and they are just a 5-piece from Bristol. And they're just shouting about what's wrong with the world at the moment.
I know, yeah. I remember I was like, I need to check out these Idols guys. Like, everybody's talking about them, even radio and stuff. And then you listen to them, like, I would never have expected radio to latch onto this. But,
yeah,
I mean, it's brilliant.
It's Six Music, where Steve Lamacq was the first, and then sort of snowballed onto all these other people. And you got, like, Jeremy Vine tweeting about it, who's Radio 2, which they did never ever play that sort of music on there. Absolutely not. And I've heard it on Radio 1 with Annie Mac. And I'm just like, what is going on? In like the best way. I'm like, I can't believe this is actually happening. But there's also another band called Shame, which are like just below Idols, which is sort of bringing out similar style of music to them. There's a couple of other artists that I feel like are just sort of bubbling away, and they're going to explode at some point. But yeah, it's so good to see that there are bands that don't rely on auto-tuning or an electronic sound to come up and rise up, as it were. And especially with the things that they're talking about as well, with yourself as well, you sort of write very personally. You know, I can see right through that as well, as that I can see that it's quite a personal thing. But when I listen to most things on the radio, it's very much, I don't really get that sense of feeling when I'm listening to them. And the same with Idols. I'm like, yes, this is it. This is what I want to hear.
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, anyone can write a pop song, right? Because, let's not be general about it, because pop songs are very successful, and there's a art to it in the same respect. But, you know, if you wanted to write just for the sake of creating something that people can dance to, it's a lot easier. But for us, definitely, be true to ourselves, write about personal emotion and feeling and experience. And, as an artist, I think you'll probably connect to that song. Not probably, you'll definitely connect to that song better, which then translates to your audience.
So with the way that KARMS is moving from this album to this future music, are you changing anything up in your sound at all?
I think we probably, I hate the word matured, but I would imagine that's probably where we're going. I mean, I'd love to experiment with different sounds. Like we have this idea of what if you had a dice, and the dice had different genres or instruments or something on it, and you roll that dice and then write the song
That's cool.
around that. Just keep it. You're a musician, and you became a musician because you're creative, and that doesn't mean that you as a band, especially these days, like that you have to stay true to a distinct sound or genre. I think for us, it's so long as we're being creative and stay excited about something. I mean, we could create an 80s rock song and never release it, but so long as we've kind of reached that sort of personal goal, I mean, that's an achievement for us.
Yeah, so when you're recording and you're, going to release this music, is it hard for you to find, is it quite hard for you to try and find any, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a little bit of energy to put this music together and put it out there. Is it quite easy for you to know that you've got that bit of drive behind you to create this, even though many people might not listen to it?
I think if you'd asked me that maybe 6 months ago or whatever, I'd probably say it would be tough to sort of be creative at a time where we were putting so much pressure on ourselves to be the biggest band in the world. Whereas now I'm just excited. Like if the lads are like, let's go to the studio, who knows what's going to happen, or hey, can you come in and record a vocal on this? I mean, that's what gets us excited now, and we're not really thinking about who's going to listen to it, although it does, it is something in the back of your mind, like, okay, I'm recording this today, can I put it online on Friday, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You still have that playing in the back of your mind, but I mean, for us, being creative now is just about, and getting excited about stuff is just about going into a room together and seeing what happens.
Yeah, that's good to hear though. And you just going back to that whole matured thing again, I think that is a word that a lot of rock musicians are using at the moment as well, or certainly in that genre. So I interviewed Tristan Jane from Black Foxes. They just released their second album, and he used the word matured for their second album. He said it's a lot more mature. We feel a lot more in our passion in our sound, and that we've really evolved it from just being a 3-piece that have just splashed a load of songs together. We've really sort of taken time to sort of organize it, and we've definitely matured in our sound. And it's gonna be in my top 10 for the year for sure. Nice. It's a fantastic record, but to hear you say that as well gives me a lot of hope as well.
Yeah, I mean, matured, like for me, would be, you've learned from what you've done before. We've learned from working with our producer Tony that like keeping it simple is best, and that you don't necessarily have to record 10 versions of the same guitar to make a big sound. That you can do that with one guitar, and just by thinking about what you're playing, you can just make a bigger sounding record. And I mean, that's what we're kind of focusing on now, and maybe just as well, like just adding a bit more depth into the songs as well, like thinking a bit more about the lyrics that go into it, or playing around with more of the dynamics. Like if you listen to Satellites, like the first 5 or 6 songs, like it's very intense, like rock music, and it's I remember the first time listening to it, and I was just so anxious because it was just not letting up, and then you get that little break in the middle, and like it works for me. Like it's exciting because the fact that it made me feel tense and anxious. I mean that was cool, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to be go hell for leather all the time. You can play around with the dynamic and the kind of I'm going to say skills that we have in the band, like the different elements and character that each individual person in the band can bring to a song, and can we get other people in to play with us and collaborate on different songs as well.
Yeah, so the big change for me from the Black Fox's first to second record is they use a lot of strings for the second record.
Yeah.
And that is definitely something that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah. And like we may do the same, and I think whether we use strings as a feature or even just to add just a layer and depth to the recording that you kind of almost feel more than experience. So we're just going to play around and see what happens.
Great.
But we've definitely said like let's just pick a date early in the new year and put something out. I mean,
Brilliant.
we may even be bold enough to release the date before we even start recording.
Give yourself a time frame.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, we've got to get this done by now because we released the date now.
Yeah, and film the absolute disaster that follows.
So, in terms of influences, then, where would you see this direction of the new sound going for these new songs? What are your influences for these new songs compared to the album?
It's mad because we're all listening to different things now. Like definitely we'll take some sort of inspiration from Father Son. Like I mean, we're massive fans of those, and they just seem to have this ability to write songs that you hear it once and you know the song. And then we're listening, people like Sigrid, and not necessarily replicating her sound, but just the way she can take a song from start to finish. Even the fact that her choruses are quite soft and elegant, and then her verses are quite soft and elegant, and then her chorus just jump out at you. Stuff like that, which is really interesting to us, like how you can play around with dynamic and textures and melody and hooks. Like,
okay, yes. I mean, it sounds really interesting actually that you're taking so many different influences from different genres as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how your sound develops and evolves and matures from the Satellites. Do you feel like you've set yourself a really high bar then from this album? Do you feel like you really need to push yourself for these new songs?
I think so, and I think that's mainly just our own sort of personal goal, like, is to always produce something that you're proud of. So, I mean, we'd never put out something that wasn't that we didn't like. So the pressure's on for us to just keep up, or like keep putting out things that we're really like, that we stand over and are excited to play and for people to hear.
Okay, and then with the live stuff as well, you've got you've just supported Father Son. Have you got any other plans for live gigs coming up soon?
So we are thinking that if we are going to release something in the new year, that we just book some big show, get our engineer over from Scotland and friends of ours who film the whole thing, record it live, and then put that out. Been talking to a friend of ours in Scotland, so hopefully we can get over for a couple of dates over there, and I think he's got some connections down in England as well, so hopefully we get a few UK dates going next year.
That'd be great. You can come to Cheltenham. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
There's I'll tell you what, the because I've now moved to Cheltenham. There's a venue here called the Frog and Fiddle, which is a fantastic venue.
Yeah.
You've had the likes of Brutus there, Gaz Brookfield, who's playing there tonight or tomorrow night. He's a fantastic artist, and I think you guys will go down really well there because it's predominantly a rock, indie, pop, what's the word, punk folk venue that sort of is allowing every genre to come in and have a sing-along, really. So I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, I mean, you guys in the UK have a more established presence of a promoter than we would here. We've kind of got major promoters that deal with big bands, and you've got some small time booking guys, but if we could engage with someone who in the UK who would like to sort of book shows and help promote us as best they can over there, we'd be absolutely delighted. Like, it's one thing we miss is being on the road like that.
And then if that does happen, then maybe you'll have like a 1-2 week tour coming up soon then.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed.
That'd be great.
If people can put money in the bank, we will.
Oh, there we go. If you'd like to donate to KARMS to come over here, then please go to my Just Giving page. Yeah, so it's great to speak to you again, and I'm really looking forward to hearing these new songs, potentially a tour as well. And if you are coming to the UK, I will try and come to the nearest venue that I can, because it'd be great to see you guys live as well. And I know how energetic your shows are and how interesting they are as well. So it'd be great to see you guys, and I know that the album is going to be in contention for the album of the year as well. So many congrats for that. But yeah, it's been great to speak to you and get a nice little update on KARMS and see how you guys are doing. And all the best for the future.
Yeah, nice one, man. Good to catch up.
Yeah, good to catch up with you too. Thank you for that.
How about it?
We lay with animals because the city doesn't know us. The city doesn't know us. We scare ourselves away doing what other people do. This is a getaway, a life we share with enemies. We hold less time for listening, and eye for eye for wondering. Come now, the crooked and the elephant. The city doesn't know us. These dreamers always show up. Dream big, we're animals. We do it slower, do it over. This is a getaway, a life we share with enemies. We hold less time for listening, an eye for all for wondering, an eye for saying sorry, but we always lose. Even when we win, they're doubting you.
how's everything going then with you? Is it all good?
Yeah, man, it's good. Like, it took a lot for us to change our mentality, like, around, because it's so disheartening, like, fucking putting something out and not having the money to really get it to where you want to go. But then, we kind of just said, fuck it, like, remember core values.
Yeah.
Why you're doing it in the first place, and just have a good time.
But then, that is something that everyone needs to sort of get grounded to, and it's quite good to see that there's not just one of you. It's not just Colm and just you and your guitar. There's four of you who all need to be in that same mentality as well.
Yeah, I mean, man, the industry is it's on its head. Like, and I don't know what it's like in the UK, but definitely in Ireland, like, we've got no support from anyone. So, and it's only now certain things that are happening that are bringing the fact that we don't get paid to light. So hopefully we see some sort of change. Like, I was like, from talking to Tony, who produced the album, you've got Canada, and I think even you guys have in the UK, where you just get funding for recording and touring, and we don't have any of that there unless you're playing fucking diddly eye music.
The UK Arts Foundation can give you grant because a guy who I know very well, Kev Minnie, he's currently just finishing recording his second album.
Wow.
I helped him create a documentary for his first album last year, and he got an arts grant for both of those albums. So
Wow.
yeah, there is a lot. The one thing you could do is apply for the grant and then just record it over here.
Yeah, I wonder, can we do that?
I don't see why not.
The other thing we've been thinking of is, because this is what we're doing we've just kind of set up BBC Introducing, but by using our sound engineer who's based in Edinburgh.
Oh, okay.
So we may be able to just apply for grants through him.
That'd be great, actually, if you could do that. I know that BBC Introducing is becoming more and more apparent thing, though, which is good to see. Like, Radio 1 have now got its own show, which I don't know why it's not done in the past. It should be every night, but apparently it's a Sunday night from 7 to 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's better than nothing. And then, obviously, you've got the BBC Introducing radio stations, all at the BBC radio stations all around. They've got individual introducing stations as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a lot.
You have
here,
it sussed, as with most things.
It's there is a lot over here, but then at the same time, it's very saturated.
Yeah, and at the same time, you're leaving the European Union, so.
Yes, thanks for reminding us about that. Thanks for reminding me about that. Knock it out of my head, but yeah, that is happening.
Oh man, I won't even be able to go up and buy fireworks in Belfast now without bringing me passport.
It's such a shame as well. It's just so messed up, this whole thing. But I don't know what's going to happen with music in the next few years, but I know that it's definitely helped a resurgence for all these artists that just want to shout about how difficult life is.
Yeah, which is great. Like, just I was talking to your singer from Fatherson the other day, and he says it's just become unbelievably difficult, and it's only going to get worse for them.
Yeah.
So,
as in
hopefully
the band
they can
is going to get only worse for the band.
Yeah, just from touring and because they're on their own budget, and if they have to sort out, I don't know what needs to be sorted out, visas or whatever that they need, or even changes to whatever taxes or whatever that's going to happen.
Yeah,
he's worried, like, what's the future going to hold for them if they want to get outside of the UK.
Okay, yeah, so they can really only tour in the UK now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's.
Okay, yeah.
Or like, I think, like, they'll be able to tour around Europe. I think it will just probably be a bit more hassle and cost them more to do it.
Okay, well then, yeah, I can see why that would be an issue. And then obviously you've got, people trying to come over from Europe to tour in the UK, which would be a lot more difficult as well. You guys included. I know it would be a lot more difficult for you guys, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, and it'll be interesting to see where it takes us as well. But it's for the smaller bands. I know it's going to be more difficult, but it is good to see all of these BBC introducing, and it's good to see all of that coming through. But I listen to like BBC Radio 2, and just some of the stuff they play on there, it's like, oh, this is the record of the week, and I'm like, this is so bang average. I think
they're just hopping on the train, man.
They are. I think it was Rod Stewart's new song. I'm literally just like, did Simon Cowell literally stand over this and just like produce every second of it? Because it's so just generic and just so lifeless. And I just don't get it. And they're, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I mean, we had we were part of this sort of, one of those competitions to play, like one of the festivals over here.
Yeah.
But one of the major radio stations, RTE2 FM, which is like our sort of government alternative mainstream radio station. And part of the application, part of being selected is that you go in and you have this, kind of interview panel type setup. And the head of music of this radio station says, to young bands who they are apparently supporting, like, listen, if you want us to play you on the station, I have this fucking algorithm that determines whether or not I'll play you. And it's all based off your Spotify plays, your fucking Shazams, and then if you happen to be played on Made in Chelsea the night before. Like, he's basically telling bands that apparently they're supporting that, listen, you've unless you're backed in some way to get substantial reach, we're not going to put support behind you. Like,
God's sake.
It's rotten.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, like that's one way for sort of bands to really get a listen. It's just all down to Spotify plays, and
yeah,
that's a shame because if somebody would come to me with 1 million plays and on Spotify a month, and they'll be, oh yeah, it'd be great to do an interview. I'll listen to them, and it'd be crap. No,
yeah.
I'm not doing it because I don't want to put. I've got a reputation.
Yeah.
I don't want to damage that reputation regardless of how many people you have.
Yeah, and you can buy plays on Spotify as well. Like,
yeah,
so it's hard to know what to believe.
Well, this is why the whole Idols album is so it's not revolutionary, but I'd say it's been a massive change because in the music industry anyway, because half the sales that came from to get them to where they were in the chart was 50% was vinyl sales.
Nice.
Which is insane. They've never seen anything like that. I think it was 50% vinyl sales. I think it was like 3% iTunes sales. 27 CDs, and then the rest was Spotify, which if you think about it is about 25% from Spotify, which if you look at Ariana Grande, for example, hers will be 80% Spotify plays.
Yeah
And they were talking about it on Radio 1 and saying that it's they've never seen anything so predominant in vinyl sales before, or just physical as well. So I think as well as it being a fantastic album, it's also one that is predominantly for vinyl sales as well, which is insane.
Yeah, and it shows true listenership as well, really.
Yeah, exactly. And that's someone buying that album for, you can listen to it for free, but people have specifically chosen, me myself as well, to purchase it, and that's one person that's actually bought it, let alone just a random bot that's played your song on Spotify. It's interesting to see where it's all going, but I don't know. It's going to be a strange journey from now for maybe like a couple of years, because I don't know where the music industry's going personally.
No,
I thought I had it figured out, but I was like, no, still don't.
You need to be in a very stable mental state to be involved in it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I just go into my own. I mean, it's a very stable mental state, but you also go into your own little bubble as well. Like, people will be listening to there's one song actually. It's really annoying. There's one song that I heard at work the other day, and the chorus literally goes, "Hello, ring ring, are you there?" and repeats that 3 times.
Did you tweet that, or maybe someone else?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is this? And I looked on Spotify. I think I can have a look at it now. I think where's like the charts, browse. Let's have a look. I can't remember who it's by, but it's absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And I really like the song. But why? How do you enjoy this song?
Because people's what people like is dictated by social media. Like that's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I see people sharing things all the time, and you're like, what are you at? Like, if I said that to you 2 months ago, you wouldn't even listen to me. But now, because the whole world is talking about this same thing, you're all over it. Like,
It's just insane. This is such a. That's not it, is it? I don't think it is. It's got how many plays? Oh, it might be actually. Jax Jones with Mabel. It's by Universal as well. Polydor.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Release, excellent. I think that's the one, but I'm just thinking. I'm sure it's called Ring Ring. I don't actually know what it's called, but that's the first thing that comes into the chorus. So I'm assuming. So either way, it's really fucking annoying.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was like a week or two ago. I don't know if you know. There's an Irish guy called Gavin James.
Yes.
And he just put up on Instagram, like he would always do, or any artist always does, like, "Hey guys, I'm going out on tour. I want to know, tell me where you want me to play." Even though it's apparent that he's already booked the tour and he's just about to announce it. And then one of these, big Irish blogs gets on top of it, which Joe.ie. I think you guys have Joe over there in the UK as well, do you? Mm. And they get on as well, like, "Oh, Gavin James is planning a tour and he wants to know where you want him to go." And I thought it was hilarious, because then the next day he announces his tour.
He can't just, like, in a day. You can't get that in a day. You can't just go.
It's so funny.
Where do you want me to play?
It's just
like,
lazy journalism, It's like, cop on and have some sense there. Like, he's not actually looking for you to tell him where he's going to play. He fucking knows exactly where he's going to play.
I would have exactly been like, yeah. I would have called him out, being like,
I was thinking about commenting on it, like, then and saying, "Oh Jesus, lads, your blog post worked."
That would have been great. I would have definitely retweeted and liked that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always have to stick by Six Music. That's the main thing. Is that it's the only place where you can actually have any respectable music played, and the DJs there as well. I will give props to a couple of other, Hugh Stevens. He's definitely endorsing the BBC Introducing, and he's following loads of other sort of artists that no one really gives a damn about on Radio 1. But yeah, I think him and Annie Mac.
Yeah, and in fairness, we've reached out to some people in the BBC, and not expecting to come back, but they do.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, they don't. They like. I mean, their tagline is we can't play because you're not on the BBC Introducing thing, and maybe you should contact X, Y, and Z. Mm. So now that we're kind of do have a presence on BBC Introducing, it's time we reach back out to them and see if they eat their words.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Let's see if they do come back and help you guys out.
Where have you been? This slow dance is ending soon. I wanna waltz with you around the house and make with you till summer comes again. time with you. 'Cause you are beautiful magic calling me home. Where have you been? The snow dance is ending soon. I wanna stay with you, but I can't live like this. I will begin to fall away. 'Cause you are beautiful magic calling me home. And when this night falls away, I'll wait for another day with you. I wanna be around for summertime with you. And you've been waiting for another new year at the chandelier. 'Cause you are beautiful